Hi everyone. So I'd like to say a few words about what Marxism-Leninism actually is. Now, as an example, let's look at maths and algebra, right? So algebra is basically a part of math that was developed by an Arab scientist called Al-Jabr. That was his last name, back in the day. And that's why we call it algebra, that certain branch. But it's still maths, right? It's mathematics. Same thing with Marxism-Leninism. Essentially, it's dialectical materialism. So the worldview is materialist, which says that matter comes first, idea comes second. Matter gives birth to idea, not vice versa. And dialectics is used as, the logical method that brings all the knowledge that you gain into a system, which is the scientific socialism, right? System of scientific socialism, which people studied extensively, was is tried to during Stalin's era, but of course war, interfered with that. Unlike Khrushchev's so-called scientific communism, which was all wrong. It was basically just a set of dogmas that separated sociology, political economy, and philosophy, whereas they should be one, like an alloy of metals, figuratively speaking. Which was, of course, part of the Khrushchev's revisionism and eventually led to, among any other things, to back to capitalism and fall of the USSR. Now, getting back to Marxism-Leninism. Despite its name, it's not just about Marx and Lenin. It's a scientific approach in general, science in general, applied to everything. In Western languages, in English, in other languages, science means natural sciences, right? Like physics, economy, mostly physics, biology, and stuff. Like the subject in school, science. So those are sciences. So kind of separate subjects. But of course, it's not that. And we're not talking about criteria of being scientific by Karl Popper, We're talking about what the notion of science is in general. And this is another thing worth mentioning, that, you should also think in notions, not just logically, rationally, scientifically, as in gaining certain knowledge and bringing this knowledge into system. You must, filter the facts, find out what is actually there by doing experiments, by using logic and stuff. But also, you must find out what the notions of actual things or phenomena are. A notion is something or a definition, they're not synonyms, but okay, to simplify things, let's use the word definition. Brings out the essence of things or phenomena. So For example, our goal is gain knowledge, right? But what is knowledge? So there's a certain definition for it. You can find it in Marxism-Lenin's works, and there's like a pyramid, putting it simply, that had led Marx and other thinkers before him, like the whole history of humankind led to that, to the notion, to essential understanding of what knowledge is and other things are. And we should study these definitions, these notions. Like in Great Soviet Encyclopedia, you can find them, and there's always links in the Great Soviet Encyclopedia to Marx's and Lenin's works. Yeah, so that's what Marxism-Leninism is. It's the correct or veritable science, right? Unlike bourgeois science, which simply has to lie about social economy, philosophy, political economy, sociology, but not lie in things regarding natural sciences. Because if you lie in national sciences, it messes up your profits, right? It's bad for the profit. So the bourgeois ideology doesn't do that. But it certainly messes with, the above-mentioned things. Political economy, sociology, and philosophy. Why? Because if you think them through as a system, logically and thoroughly, you'll quickly find out that you don't need the bourgeoisie. See? Because they don't have the right by social law. They don't have the right to own most of the things they own. Private property. So that's why all the institutions that are financed by the bourgeoisie, by the petty bourgeoisie, they're all about that. They're about saying that we don't need the revolution. We don't need the dictatorship of the proletariat, just like KPRF, Communist Party of Russian Federation says, and many others who joined them. Whereas Lenin said only a person is only Marxist if they defend and support the dictatorship of the proletariat until full communism. So at first it's revolutionary dictatorship of the proletariat. Then when socialism is built, it's the dictatorship of the proletariat continues and must continue until complete abolition of classes, or Aufhebung of classes. The Hegel's category, when you deny something but also retain something at the same time. So the problem is that when socialism is built, the Muttermalen, the traces of classes still remain. They're not completely vanished. And that's what happened in the Soviet Union. They didn't fight them, these remaining properly, these remaining traces of classes, which led to, to counter-revolution and restoration of capitalism in Russia and the collapse of the USSR. So, yeah, that's basically what came to my mind today. And, yeah, bye, good luck.